Joe Biden not faring particularly well. Third-party candidates, well, there's 4 of them in these polls. And at this point, they're appealing more to soft Republican, lean Republican voters who would have voted for Joe Biden in 2020. And as you know, Joe Biden won the election with about a total of 40,000 votes. I think it was over 3 different states. Those same states may not be the same ones that are in play this time, but nevertheless, the last 2 elections have been decided by 110,000 votes over the course of 3 states in each of those 2016 and 2020. Because of the nature of our electoral college. So very small margins and very small leakage, as it were, of voters deciding they're not going to vote for Biden this time around and they're going to vote for a third party, or I think in very rare circumstances they would vote for Trump, but it's more often than not just not voting for Biden.
Or not voting at all.
Or not voting at all. Although, it's unclear from these polling, what people are going to do in that situation. And of course, we're a year out. Nevertheless, a year out, here is Donald Trump. And granted, he is at peak needing to motivate Republican base voters. And I don't know why I say necessarily granted, because that should be just as disturbing as what he's saying. He is well in the lead in New Hampshire and Iowa. So I don't think that you can assume that this is extremism for attention as much as it is him and the people who will be voting for him. Here is Donald Trump, and this was on Saturday in Raleigh, at a rally, I should say, in Durham, New Hampshire. And this is the type of rhetoric he's doing. And we should also say, as he's saying these things, Joe Biden and Democrats in the Senate are negotiating away things like asylum rights and other immigration rights, which just gives you a sense of how much this country has moved to the right on immigration from even the days when George W. Bush was trying to forge comprehensive immigration reform. When Democrats abandon the fight for political expediency, as they did in many instances over the past 10, 15 years, this is what happens. And Donald Trump was a brief respite from that slide, but less so from politicians and more so just from voters. But here is Donald Trump in Durham, New Hampshire.
Destroyed our country, and we're going to make it great again, greater than ever before, and there's nothing I can do that's going to top that. I've had plenty of the other life, right? We've had plenty of the other life. We got a lot of work to do. When they let, I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country, when they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be, and then we built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then we're going to build more. And the election was rigged, and we... I
mean, he's just going through a laundry list. He's obviously lost on his teleprompter. But poisoning the blood of our country, if that sounds familiar to you, then you're familiar with some of Hitler's writings and speakings. And he's talking about deporting all of these immigrants. And he wants to make it clear it's not just the 2 or 3 countries that you think of in Latin America, Central America. He also wants to make sure that you're thinking about African and Asian immigrants as well.
Yeah. Do we have this? I sent this polling that this Michael Kagan put up here, and speaking about kind of like the incongruous nature or the inconsistent nature of how Americans view immigration. And this is a pretty small poll. It's a Fox News poll, but this discrepancy, I think, is borne out just, anecdotally in what I'm seeing. When this question is posed, allowing illegal immigrants who have jobs in the United States to apply for legal status, 62% favor, 36% oppose. Then ask them this question: deporting immigrants who are living in the United States illegally back to their home countries, 67% favor, 28% oppose. And, that means that there is a wild discrepancy in, or a huge gap, a vacuum being left where the American public doesn't really understand what immigration policy really means and what a humane path forward would be. And because the Democratic Party for the past, when they're in power, I guess, Obama tried to move forward with some reform, but at least the Biden administration has just completely abandoned this topic. It leaves a huge gaping wound, an opening, a vacuum for fascist rhetoric.
Oh, it flatters their premises. Bill Clinton the entire time in the 90s was looking at how much, actually all their attacks are false. Look at how much we've spent on border security. Obama, like you said, tried to do the reform, but actually just became the deporter in chief. And yeah, like all that time, and Biden, once again, granting the premises. Oh yeah, we'll look at Title 42 again. The Republicans had to get Title 42 under the pretense that there was a global pandemic and
right.
Protect ourselves from disease, and now we're just putting that back on the table.
And to be clear, what I read from those polls is that not just that people don't understand our immigration system, they also have a completely twisted notion of who immigrants are.
Yeah.
The idea that, go back to that first graph, or poll, I should say. Allowing illegal immigrants who have jobs in the United States to apply for legal status. 62% want that to happen. Yet, in the next question, they say deporting immigrants who are living in the United States illegally back to their home countries, favored by 67%. What people don't understand is the massive percentage of undocumented immigrants who are in this country who are working.
Yeah.
And certainly who would work if they were allowed to. The perception is that you have all of these millions of undocumented immigrants in here just to get on the really cush and luxurious dole in this country of food stamps or Medicaid, and this is just a twisted perception about who essentially the undocumented immigrant population is, and there's an opening, like Emma says, the size of a bus to drive through. It's not going to be easy, but sustained over time education by political parties, in this case the Democratic Party, as to who immigrants are, forcing, in some ways, you obviously can't force, but you can certainly direct the media narrative.
The Republicans do that all the time.
Well,
the Democrats just have no understanding of what to do.
They don't want to engage in that fight.
Well, Biden's just reacting.
Yes.
But there's what's the long-term strategy then on immigration?
There is none.
Because we're going to cave to get Ukraine and Israel money over the hump without conditions for Israel, as they have killed 20,000 people in 10 weeks, because you're reacting to polling where the right is says that you're not tough enough on the border. Well, there's no oxygen being given to some sort of counter narrative for why the Democrats are better on immigration, because of how these policies have not worked. It's crazy to me. There's no strategy.
During 2010, in the run up to 2010, the Obama administration started pushing for austerity in the wake of the financial crisis. And at the very least, the Biden administration learned at least one lesson there, that you've actually got to, when the economy is in crisis, you actually got to spend your way out of it. The Obama administration, specifically at that time, was like, saying stuff. The reporting was that the president doesn't believe that we shouldn't be spending money, but he also doesn't want to expend political cachet on teaching people that that's not that austerity is not the appropriate response. So you heard a lot of like belt tightening rhetoric. And the austerity came in. It gave us an incredibly slow and anemic recovery that took almost 10 years to get to rebound in terms of employment. We lost millions of homes to foreclosure. Many people think that's why Donald Trump was even remotely positioned to be able to win in 2016, that there was a growing dissatisfaction. And of course, we saw how easily the notion of austerity and deficit reduction could be jettisoned. And
Trump did it first with the first round of checks during COVID. It's incredible. The Democrats only abandoned that
he also
belt
did it even before then with massive tax cuts.
Sure.
In building the deficit. They weren't going to. There was no more talk about the deficit. Paul Ryan was the last one who was maintaining that fiction, and off he went, and that was it. So we'll see. I don't know what the Biden campaign can do to deal with these things, but certainly alienating more parts of his base over this does not seem to be the most, I think, intelligent move, at least from a political standpoint, and certainly from a policy standpoint.